What if I told you that death, the one rule every human being has lived under since the beginning of time, might not stay a rule forever? What if death is not some untouchable law of nature, but a problem, a technical problem, a biological problem, a code problem? The problem that it's just not solved yet, but maybe for the first time in human history, cracked open just enough for us to see what is coming next. Because right now, not in a movie, in the real world, scientists and startup teams are already doing things that sound insane the first time you hear them. A fruit-fly brain has already been emulated inside a computer-driven body. Yes, read that again. A brain inside a machine controlling a body. Not a human body, not your body, not even close, but still a body. And that is where this stops being just interesting science news and starts becoming something much darker. Because if a brain can be modeled, if behavior can be reproduced, and if life can be translated into code, then the question is no longer whether technology will change humanity. The question is whether humanity is about to change what that even means. Welcome back, this is Ren. Most people hear a story like this and laugh it off. It's just a fruit fly, who cares, that has nothing to do with me. No, that's exactly how people miss history when it is happening. The first airplane did not look like the future. It looks fragile, awkward, and barely able to stay in the air for a few seconds. The first computer did not look world-changing. They looked massive, slow, expensive, and useless to normal people. Even the first iPhone did not look like it was about to reshape the human behavior. To a lot of people, it just looked like a small glass toy with no keyboard. That is how history always enters the room. Not looking unstoppable, they looking small, looking limited, looking easy to laugh at, right before it changes everything. And now, look around. So when I hear that a team has taken a fruit fly connected to a simulated body and closed the loop between sensation, neural activity, and action, I'm not thinking about the fly. I'm thinking about the direction. Because direction is everything. Today it is a fly. Tomorrow it is a bigger animal. Then one day the question is no longer can this happen. The question becomes how far are we willing to let it go. This was not just an animation where a programmer hard-coded every move frame by frame. What Elon described builds on a full map of a Dell fruit fly brain. About 139,255 neurons and roughly 50 million centipedes, along with later research showing that connectome-based models could recover sensorial model structure like feeding and grooming, plus embody fly simulation work. In Elon's system, sugar-like taste signals activate sensory neurons that activity moves through the brain model, and the outputs help drive the simulated body towards behavior like feeding, slowing down, turning, and grooming. In plain language, here's what that means. They did not just make a fake fly animation, they built a system where the fly's actual brain wiring was being used to help generate behavior. So when the digital fly sends something like sugar, the signal goes into the brain model, gets processed through that neural wiring, and then the body responds, just like the real brain. And that's why this matters. Because the point is not that they made a cartoon move, the point is that they are starting to use the real brain structure to produce actions inside a digital body. And now, I need to be honest here. This does not mean they uploaded a conscious soul into a laptop, and it doesn't mean a human brain upload is right around the corner. Even Elon says the current system only models a limited slice of behavior, uses simplified neuron dynamics, and is still missing a lot of what makes a real animal a real mammal. Internal state, plasticity, learning, hormones, context, and more. But honestly, that's almost what makes it more disturbing. Because even with all those limits, we're already watching biology get translated into computable structure. The line between life and the code just got thinner. And this is where the conversation gets dark. Because once life starts looking like information, death starts looking different too. If your behavior, memories, reactions, the way you think, the way you move, can one day be mapped with enough precision, then what exactly dies when the body dies? That is a question nobody wants to sit with. Because maybe the real horror is not dying. Maybe the real horror is living long enough to see that you can be copied. Socrates said the unexamined life is not worth living. But what happens when life can be examined so deeply that it can be modeled and copied? What happens when the mystery that made you feel unique starts getting reverse engineered? Now I know that some people are thinking, come on, it's just a fruit fly. It's still so far away from humans. And that's fair, because a fruit fly is not a human brain. A fruit fly is not a human consciousness, and a fruit fly definitely has nothing to do with immortality. But that is not the point. The point is that once scientists starting proving they can model even a tiny brain and get behavior out of it, the question stops being if biology can be translated into technology. The question becomes how far can this go? And once people start asking that, the next thought is obvious. How do we get closer to the human brain? How do we get all those information we need for the human brain? We cannot just cut the brain open and then learn it from the observation. But the solution is actually already there. And that is where most people have probably already heard the name, Neuralink. Neuralink is already in human trials. Right now, the real use case is medical, helping people with paralysis control device through thought and pushing towards speech restoration, robotic arm control, and even vision-related applications. So yes, today it only used in medical field and it's about restoring function. But do not be naive, just like I said, it's only today. And Elon Musk has already made an ambition pretty clear. Neuralink is not just trying to build a medical device for today. Even the company's own language says the goal is to restore autonomy now and unlock human potential tomorrow. Technology do not stay in their first form forever. The internet was not just small like it used to be. Phones were not just for the phone call anymore. And the brain-computer interface will not stay just medical device forever either. Because if they keep improving, if they get more advanced and cheaper for people to use, they can get more information of brain to develop and eventually it will ask for enhancement. The memory enhancement, the attention enhancement, the mood control. Then maybe it could turn you into a super genius or a super athlete with the little chip in your brain. It would just be exactly like cyberpunk. Ask yourself, would you use it if it is accessible and can turn you into a Superman overnight for the rest of your life? And once that door's open, good luck closing it. Now let me ask the question that really breaks people. If one day your mind could be copied into another substrate, another body, or a machine, or some cloned biological shell, and your original self was still standing here breathing, which one is you? Seriously, which one gets your bank account? Which one gets your family? Which one gets your real name? Which one gets blamed for what happens next? If there are two versions of you and both remember being you, both feel like you, both claim to be the original, then personal identity stops being a spiritual question and becomes a legal, technological, and psychological war. And deep down, I think that is why this topic scares people so much. Because we said we want to be immortal, we want to live forever, but maybe we do not. Maybe what we really want is continuity, and we want to believe there is one story, one self, one line. But advanced brain tech might not give us one line. It might give us branches, and that is completely different kind of future for us. Future could just end like the movie Get Out. Certain select people's brain can live forever with the technology we have. Guess whose body their brain and consciousness can live in? Of course not their old and dying body. And you know the answer. That is a disgusting future if we are not careful. And the scary thing is technology does not need bad intention to create bad outcomes. It only needs power, speed, money, and human insecurity. That is enough. So what's the meaning of the life if that stops being permanent? Here's what I think. The question is backwards. The meaning of life was never supposed to come from death alone. Death give life urgency? Yes. Death give life pressure? Yes. Death force decisions? Yes. But meaning does not come from the final line. Meaning comes from what you choose while you are still here. Because even if one day people can stretch life, copy parts of mind, merge with machines, repair bodies, or build digital version of themselves, that still will not answer the oldest human question. What should I live for? Technology can maybe extend life. It cannot automatically justify life. Technology can maybe preserve memory. It cannot automatically create wisdom. Technology can maybe duplicate intelligence, it cannot automatically create character. So if the future really is coming for that, if the code really is being cracked piece by piece, if brain really are becoming computable, then your job is not just to ask, how long can I live? Your job is to ask, what kind of being am I becoming? Because living forever as a shallow, empty, replaceable copy of yourself is not victory. That is just some longer version of confusion. At the end, I'm not saying immortality is here. I'm saying the direction is not serious enough that only a fool would laugh it off. A fruit fly today does not mean human upload tomorrow, but it does mean the line between biology and computation is no longer fantasy. And once humanity starts touching that line, everything changes. So I will leave you with this. If one day technology offers you a longer life, a copied mind, a cloned body, or a second version of yourself, would you take it? And if you would, are you sure that thing is still you? Thanks for watching this video. I'll see you next time.